it's as simple as simply just hooking up a few more power lines, then that's what they'll do. But in those areas that are going to have the most severe impact, it's likely going to require to have some re-engineering, to have some structural fixes, and that's going to require manpower, but it's just going to take a little bit more time. So people understand. I was able to speak to the president of FPL. They understand how significant this is. They understand how important it is to get the services back up and running, but we also understand the severity of this storm and the really, really catastrophic damage that it can inflict on the coast, on the southwest coast of Florida. You are starting to see power outages across the state, but you're going to see way, way more over the next 48 hours. I mean, you're going to have millions of people without power in this state within the next 48 hours, no question. This morning, Kevin Guthrie, our director of the Florida Department of Emergency Management, has asked for additional airlift, hoists, and high water vehicles from the Department of Defense in coordination of FEMA. The SecDef has approved Florida's request for dual status of our National Guard forces under Title 10 to provide additional resources and additional forces, and we're really thankful for the fulfillment of that request. We've got about 1,200 personnel for our Florida Department of Transportation that are on standby to perform cut and toss operations. These guys can't work if they can't get to where they're going, and so that's the top priority for the Florida Department of Transportation as well as Florida Highway Patrol to clear these roads, to make sure that the bridges are safe, and to really green light these operations to get back into these communities. In Southwest Florida, this is a lesson from Irma. They have people that they're calling leave behind teams, so that when the storm passes, their job is to clear the runways and make sure that we can resume air operations as quickly as possible. There's going to be a need to bring in things like food and water via fixed-wing aircraft, and so you want to have those runways up and running as soon as possible. Obviously, some of them could be underwater. I mean, there's going to be things that go into that, but having those folks on the ground there to do it I think is going to make a big difference. We have 5,000 guardsmen. We have 2,000 from other states. We've got 9 Chinooks, rotary wing aircraft that are ready to respond. Of course, Jimmy Petronas has been talking about our urban search and rescue teams. 5 of them are ready to go. And they will be in that to commence rescue operations as soon as it's safe to do so. Our Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission has placed their Special Operations Group in Broward County. That's high water vehicles, shallow draft boats, and helicopters that are ready for immediate deployment once it is safe to do so. I want to thank, we now have total throughout the state. We've got over 40,000 personnel, linemen, and associated personnel that are involved with the restoration of electrical services and power services that are stationed in the state of Florida. And these are folks that are staged across the state of Florida. If you look in southwest Florida, you're going to have movement, less likely from southeast for additional surge of resources. Of course, this staging area is going to send people all across the state. I know FPL is mindful of, yes, we're going to have a catastrophic impact in southwest Florida, but this thing is going to, really barrel across the state. It's going to be a strong storm. I mean, it's going to weaken once it gets on shore, but you're going to end up, you could end up in central Florida to have winds, certainly gusts that would be hurricane force. It's going to at least be a tropical storm as it barrels across. That's going to cause problems with the vegetation. It's going to cause problems with trees. The ground's already wet based on the amount of precipitation we have. That's ripe conditions for trees to fall over. That means more power lines are down. So that's going to have a cascading effect. So the most significant impacts will obviously be the landfall, but you're going to have other impacts. And so that's why you have these folks staged. That's why you have so many people, because there's going to be a lot of different places around the state of Florida where they're going to have to respond to. We now have 26 states that have sent us support right now, including Tennessee, Virginia, Montana, Louisiana, New York, Colorado, Indiana, New Jersey, and Georgia. I want to thank them for their support. It's much appreciated. I've been in contact personally, but then also the Florida Department of Emergency Management. we're in contact with the local folks, particularly in Southwest Florida, about needs, and their needs have been met. Obviously, once the storm hits, there's going to be additional needs, and we stand by ready to offer the support in that regard. It's very, very important. We are going to have significant rescue operations that are going to have to be done, because you have some people, not most, but you do have some people who've chosen to hunker down in some very vulnerable areas. And so that is going to be something that I know that they're keeping a very close eye on. They're going to monitor the impacts of the storm and then monitor how those folks have been able to weather it. But we anticipate, whether it's ground, water, air, all different types of ways to go in and help people. That's going to commence immediately upon this storm hitting. Pray for people. This is a major, major storm. You never want to see any storms hit, because it creates a lot of problems. But I'll tell you, the state has done a lot of storms over the past. There's some you deal with. It's never fun. It's never fun to have damage. It's never fun to see flooding. It's never fun to see power interrupted. But you kind of deal with it, and then you move forward. There's some storms that really leave an indelible impact, and we've been working with the folks up in Northwest Florida on Hurricane Michael. That was a major storm. There are obviously people that were directly impacted. We had fatalities as a result of that storm. But then you had so many other things that have happened all the way to this day. That recovery goes on. This is going to be one of those historic storms, and it's going to really, shape the communities in Southwest Florida and have a profound impact on our state. So we just ask people for their thoughts and their prayers. We know there's a lot of people that want to be helpful in a variety of ways. As this goes, we'll be calling on more and more people to pitch in a variety of different capacities. Not everyone is a skilled lineman who can go in and do that. Not everyone can operate special operations to go and rescue people, but some people can volunteer. Some people can help with folks who've been displaced, and there's going to be a need for all of that as this storm goes through and as we assess the damage that has been done. I'm thankful for what they're doing here with Florida Power and Light. This is something that when you're a major Florida-based company, this is just part of what you do with your business. And I'm happy that they've really leaned in on this and really marshaled a tremendous amount of resources to be able to offer the quickest and most effective response possible that they can do as a company. And I know there's going to be a lot of Floridians that are going to be really happy about that. This is not an easy thing. These power problems are not going to be easy, but I think they're committed to putting the manpower in place, spending the resources necessary to have as most successful conclusion as we can. So we're going to hear from some folks from FPL. We're also going to hear from Dane Eagle and Jimmy Petronas. So Jim Bush, Senior Director for External Affairs FPL, you want to say a few things?
Thank you, Governor. Good morning. My name is Jim Bush. I'm a Director of External Affairs for Florida Power and Light. On behalf of the FPL, we want to thank Governor DeSantis for coming out to greet the men and women who have come to respond to Hurricane Ian. We have assembled a restoration workforce of more than 19,000. That includes FPL employees, contractors, and men and women from partner utilities from around the country. There are more than 30 states represented here today. We have line workers who traveled in at this site from as far as Texas and Oklahoma, Minnesota, and North Dakota, all to help Florida respond to this challenge. There have been many times that FPL employees have traveled to other states to help them when they were in need, and now they're here to return the favor, and we're very grateful for them for that. Here at the Lake City processing site, these men and women will be briefed on the restoration challenges ahead. We will share our work and processes for storm procedures so that everybody is onboarded and ready to go. They will then fan out across the state and be positioned at 37 work bases that are currently close to the areas that will be most highly impacted. And they will work around the clock until power is restored for everybody as quickly and as safely as possible. It won't be easy. We anticipate that there'll be many downed trees and debris, perhaps tornado damage, and in many areas flooded conditions throughout our service territory. But these men and women will work extended hours, 16-hour days in some pretty difficult conditions, and as I mentioned, they'll work around the clock until power is restored to the last FPL customer. Thank you, Governor DeSantis and the state, for being here and supporting us, and for the emergency declaration, and for all of the men and women who have traveled in to help us respond to this storm. Thank you.
Okay. All right, David.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you, Governor DeSantis. I just want to assure all of our customers that we are executing our plan. We have already deployed, as the governor mentioned, resources across the entire state who are ready to respond. I also want to take the opportunity to remind our customers and the general public to keep safety top of mind. FPL, we consider safety our #1 priority, and we want to ensure that our customers know that we're working around the clock to safely and quickly restore power to our customers. And I want to assure our customers that they know that we will not stop until every customer is restored. Again, thank you very much, Governor.
Okay, thanks. Dane?
Well, I want to thank Governor DeSantis for his leadership. I've spent the last few days at the Emergency Operations Center, and while this storm is unbearable to watch, I have a lot of faith in knowing the team that he's assembled that's ready to launch across the state. We've seen there in Tallahassee and here and elsewhere. I'm the Secretary of the Department of Economic Opportunity, and at DEO, we support communities, businesses, and Floridians, and this is especially true during a disaster event like a hurricane. Right now, we are hosting daily calls with our private sector partners to get real-time updates on emergency supply inventories, supply chain issues, and business closures and other critical information to give Floridians access to the latest information. We are sharing these updates in real time at www.floridadisaster.biz. That's www.floridadisaster.biz, as well as key resources and toolkits for businesses before, during, and after the storm. DEO has activated the private sector hotline at 850-815-4925. That's 850-815-4925. And inquiries may also be emailed to esf18@em.myflorida.com. That's esf18@em.myflorida.com. Also, businesses that want to assist, we want to hear from you. Let us know what your capabilities are. Partners including Walmart, Publix, and Lowe's have indicated that they are constantly bringing additional supplies into the state to restock inventory, and their teams and others are currently with our team at the Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee. We are co-locating the closures and hours of these and other businesses and retailers on our map available at DEO's webpage, floridadisaster.biz/business open close status. That's floridadisaster.biz/business open close status. Many stores have dedicated pages on their websites to find their store-specific information during Hurricane Ian, including Publix.com/status and Walmart.com/news. I've been in constant communication with Visit Florida CEO Dana Young and the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association to ensure that the state's emergency accommodations portal, Expedia.com/Florida, is being updated with the latest on available listings. As the governor shared last night, we are working with FRLA and Visit Florida to get the word out to lodging establishments to relax their pet policies, and there are still available hotels and other lodging available through Tallahassee to Pensacola and in Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade. Private sector partner Uber is offering round-trip rides to and from various shelter locations listed at floridadisaster.org. Riders can enter promotional code IANRELIEF, that's IANRELIEF, in the app to redeem a free round trip up to $30 each way. Rides must be requested to or from any state-approved evacuation shelter in Florida. We're also in touch with U-Haul, who is offering 30 days of free storage in U-Box containers for usage in 43 Florida locations. Find information at uhaul.com/about under top stories. At DEO, we have released $1.4 million in low-income energy assistance programs, set aside emergency funding to support preparedness activities such as placing people in temporary dwellings to preserve the health and safety, as well as transportation such as gas, cars, shuttles, and buses to move individuals away from the crisis and when health and safety is endangered by loss of heating and cooling. DEO is also engaging with our Communication Action Agency network across the state to ensure that resources are being mobilized to serve our most vulnerable Floridians in the aftermath of the hurricane and impacted communities, including shelter and temporary housing, electrical repairs, debris removal, transportation, fuel, utility deposit, utility payments, utility box replacements, HVAC replacement, and to purchase generators. Now, I'm from Southwest Florida, so this is incredibly hard to watch, but as I mentioned, seeing what the governor and the teams across the state are doing gives me hope. My prayers, my thoughts are with everybody back home, and the message is the governor is organizing all this to ensure safety. Your safety is the primary point of all the work that's being done. So when the storm does pass, whether you hunker down or evacuated, if you've evacuated, please wait. Don't go rushing back home. Wait for the utility crews, wait for the first responders to clean up, and wait for the signal from your local officials to do so. We're going to help you. We've got your back. We're going to make sure that your communities rebuild, but your safety is priority at this time. Thank you to Governor DeSantis for his leadership.
Jimmy?
Thank you, Governor. Thanks, Dane. Urban search and rescue teams, 5 of which the governor has mentioned, Florida-based teams, have been stationed and pre-prepared in order to roll in as soon as it is safe. We have 5 FEMA teams that are out-of-state teams that are here to create a total complement of 600 boots on the ground, pairs of boots on the ground. That includes trauma surgeons, engineers, and also canine units, in addition to shallow water boat vehicles. These groups will enter into those neighborhoods of the affected, devastated areas. As soon as the roadways are clear, they will literally be riding right behind DOT and forestry vehicles as the roads are clear, going from door to door, neighborhood to neighborhood, administering their life-saving services based on the missions of those devastated areas. Please understand, they will make repeated visits. They will be doing welfare checks. In the following days afterwards, our office will be setting up insurance villages in those affected areas where the insurance carriers will set up. They will be taking claims. They will also be issuing emergency assistance based on the terms of your policy. I cannot urge enough. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Do not sign anything when anybody comes to your doorstep providing any type of services on behalf of your of any services you might need. Your first call needs to be to my office at 877-MY-FLCFO, your insurance agent or your insurance carrier, to start the claims process. Also, be wary of Gofundme scams that will emerge after this. Hurricane Ian is going to be an incredibly emotional, tragic event, and it will bring predators out that will prey on your generosity. So please consider using other forms of donation: Samaritan's Purse, Salvation Army, Red Cross. Be skeptical if anybody is putting anything out on GoFundMe, because there's no transparency there or where those dollars are going. Again, please stay safe. We will endure this together. Governor, thank you for your leadership.
It's important for people to just be reminded that when the storm passes in your area, there's a lot of hazards that happen after the storm. And more recent storms, not as strong as this, have seen more fatalities even in the aftermath of the storm than from the direct impact of the storm itself. So don't mess around with standing water. If you see any type of cord or electrical, do not go anywhere near that. That could be very, very hazardous. Don't try to drive your car in flooded streets. That is not a recipe for success. If you are using a portable generator, that exhaust has got to be outside of your home. If that exhaust is inside the home, you could get carbon monoxide poisoning, and we have had fatalities as a result of that. So just understand the impact of the storm is going to be enormous. There's obviously some people who are in harm's way by choice, having hunkered down in their areas. We're praying for them. Obviously, there's going to be rescue efforts made as soon as it's safe to do so. But once the storm hits and passes, it is going to be a very hazardous environment still. We're going to be trying to get these guys in to be able to do what they have to do, but they need to have a safe environment to work in too. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going on, particularly down in those southwest Florida counties. Other thing I would just say is this is a major event. It's going to be a tragic event in many ways, but it's something that we are going to dig in on. We are going to be there. We are going to stand with the people who are most affected, and we understand this is not just a 48-hour ordeal. This is going to be something that is going to be there for days and weeks and months, and unfortunately, in some circumstances, even years. But that's just what we're called upon to do. So we'll be standing there, and we will marshal the resources that we need to be able to serve the people that are most affected by this. I want to thank the men and women who are standing behind me right now. You have a job to do, you work, you put food on the table for your family, and in normal situations, most people don't think much of it. You just assume that you're entitled to have power in your home and all the different necessities and conveniences of life. In reality, there's a lot that goes into this, and it's in situations like this that we realize how significant it is, and so their efforts are going to make things a lot better for a lot of people than they otherwise would. So on behalf of the state of Florida, all the linemen, all the crew personnel, everyone involved with all of our utilities, FP&L and all of them, we just want to say thanks. Thanks for coming in from out of state. Thanks for being staged and ready to go in and restore services. Thanks so much.